Hello believers, welcome back to the fold. Thanks for joining me for another close audio encounter. Believe Me is a podcast where we speak to creative minds about what they like, how they think, and how cult TV has shaped them. I'm currently sat in a place called Ocean Terminal. Now, how best to describe Ocean Terminal? It's a shopping mall, but it's designed to look like a cruise liner. It's on the outskirts of Leith. It's kind of part condensed Westfield, part covered flea market. It's actually quite spacious, and I find myself coming here quite a lot. I mean, it's strange. It's got a Greggs next to a Superdry. It's got a roller rink next to a Turkish restaurant. It's also home to the royal family's yacht and a community centre built from an old Debenhams department store. It's kind of like something that George A. Romero and J.G. Ballard would think up, if they got into the retail business. Very, very odd. I guess liminal is the word you might use to describe it. They have tried to rebrand it several times. I think they're now, rather than calling it Ocean Terminal, they're calling it OT. So I'll see you down OT. Brilliantly bizarre. And if you ever find yourself in Leith, do get on the tram and come and have a walk round here, because it is genuinely perplexing, and long may it continue. One person who I'm sure would feel right at home in these surroundings is today's guest. It's filmmaker and scriptwriter Tiago Teixeira. If you've been to a horror film festival or a short film festival recently, chances are you will have seen one of Tiago's brilliantly unsettling offerings. Tiago has written for HBO, and his short films such as Dog Skin and Molar and Wrong Number have won various awards, and he's just started making his first feature film, which is called Custom. Tiago talks to us about feeling Brazilian, using the tropes of horror to create something new, trashy paperbacks, and we'll also be speaking about X Files Season 1, Episode 4, entitled Conduit. As always, if you enjoy the show, do drop me a line at believemepod@gmail.com. Thank you for all your downloads and comments so far. I'm getting obsessed with looking at the stats for this podcast already, even though I said to myself that I wouldn't do that. So thank you to the person who listened from Indonesia. Or did you listen to it? Maybe you're using a VPN when you're trying to trick me. Anyway, thanks for listening wherever you're listening. We've got some really great guests coming up in the next few weeks, so I'm really pleased to have you with me on this, frankly, quite preposterous journey. Anyway, without further ado, here's Tiago. Are you in post-production of Custom at the minute, is that right?
Yeah, we are finishing the sound design. We already have the score, but now we need to get the sound design done. Sam Mason is working on it. He's a really amazing guy. And it should be done by the end of the year.
And have you, is he the person you work with on sound design for the last couple of your films? Because that's one of the things that really struck me, revisiting the short films, is how important and like immersive that sound design is. Is that, it's obviously a conscious choice to do that.
Yeah, it's the same guy. He helped me on. He worked on Molar and on another short that I did called Whale. But this one hasn't been into any festivals yet. But it was a very it's a weird, very very small short that I did. I don't know if it's going to be at any festival. Maybe it's going to be online at some point. But he helped me with both, and he's fantastic. Like his work on these both films was completely insane. It's the only moment when it really clicks, when you have some good sound design and you can see that. I mean, I'm talking about the films that I do, and you can look at it and see like, and it feels like, okay, yeah, this is feeling like a film now.
Is that? I've not read the scripts, but presumably you're thinking about that as you're writing the script. because they're watching the films and they're very, I don't want to say restrained. They're not restrained. That's probably the wrong word. But, it's a lot's going on in your mind when you're watching it rather than being hit over the head with anything. And the sound design is obviously very much a part of that. So are you writing that into the script, or has that come out of this collaboration with Sam in the past?
Yeah, no, it was always, I always liked this kind of films, and I always paid a lot of attention to it. And most of the times it's written on the script. When I'm working with a sound designer, I always like to, of course, I have an idea of what I would like to see in the film, but I always like to talk about them, to talk with them about their ideas as well, because it's it's like I think this is the way I approach like every aspect of filming. I really think it's a collaborative process, and when you get a crew that understand what you're trying to do and they are trying to be a part of this process, it's just, I think, is the best thing about filming, about working on film. It's like this relationship that you get when your crew is like, they understand what you're doing and they know exactly what you're looking for, and they have their own ideas as well. Join, just get together with your ideas and create something new and unexpected, that you weren't expecting to see in the film. And it's I always find it amazing. And Sam is this kind of guy that he has this great ideas, and they're always like on point. I really think his work, like, it adds so much to the film.
It feels like the outpourings of one vision, if you know what I mean. And I hear what you say about people bringing their own ideas to things, but it all does feel like, you say, everybody's on board with what this sort of strange and often sort of, it's like mythical almost, this sort of feeling you get when you watch your films. And do you even feel like a horror filmmaker, or would you class yourself as a horror filmmaker?
That's a very good question. And I think about that a lot. I don't know if I'm a horror filmmaker. I of course, I love horror films, and there's a lot of horror elements in my films. Of course, I think I really love like weird films, like films that are more like strange and atmospheric than films that are scary. I mean, I love a scary film, but when I think of like my favorite directors that do horror, I always think like of course David Lynch and Cronenberg, but those are easy. But like also like Kiyoshi Kurosawa and some films by Claire Denis and Zulawski. It's like there's a and I don't think their films are scary. A lot of people, like, I don't think David Lynch is scary at all, or Cronenberg. I think sometimes they're very a bit uncomfortable and creepy, but
yeah.
What I really love about all these filmmakers is the atmosphere, that they create, and it's something that it's hard to explain, but I think it has to do with sound design as well. A lot. It has a lot to do with sound design, but like it's something that, I don't know, just start watching a film and it clicks, something clicks, and I go, oh, okay, I'm into it. That's it. You can feel like there's this world that was created, and you're getting into it, and it's really fascinating. I don't know if I'm part of the horror scene. Of course, I know a lot of the horror filmmakers knew that everyone, that's people that are making like shorts and the first features, and I was lucky to meet them on festivals and online sometimes, and they're all great. I love a lot of the stuff that they're doing. I don't know if I feel like I'm part of the scene, because I think horror is a genre that's just too, it means a lot of different films, and it's hard to put a label on it, because you can say you like horror and then you like, I don't know, Trouble Every Day, and you can say you like horror and you like
Scream 5.
Yeah, exactly. Which I like. I like Scream 5 as well. But you can like I don't know, Terrifier or something like this, which is like completely, is on the same spectrum, I guess, but it's so different, Yeah, I don't know where I fit really.
So were you born in Rio then?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So do you feel connected with Brazil, and do you feel influenced by what's been going on there as a country, or are you does that not even register or is it like more of a subconscious thing?
Yeah. No, I feel connected. I feel very connected to Brazil. I only moved to the UK 11 years ago, and I really love a lot of Brazilian filmmakers. Kleber Mendonça Filho as well. I really love his stuff. Bacurau was great, and it's there's a thing with Brazil, and I think it has to do with the way that films are funded in Brazil, because most of the films in Brazil are funded by government grants, and the grants, they don't work like here, where like in the UK the BFI, they want to be a part of the development of the film, and I think it shapes a little bit the way that the films come out, which is fine, is the way that they work. But in Brazil, if you get a grant, you're basically free to do the film you want with the grant.
Wow, I mean that's God, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's great. But like, what happens is you just have to do the accounting at the end, and then get your budgets straight, and then you. But they give you a lot of freedom, and this in a way is great, because you have a lot of really amazing experimental and art house films in Brazil, and a lot of stuff that sadly ends up just being screened at festivals, because the film circuit is obviously dominated by American blockbusters as it is. These films that they get the funds, they're kind of like usually like social dramas,
Right.
And I think these kind of films, it's easier for them to get this funding in Brazil, and we have a culture of doing like this films, which is something that doesn't interest me that much but there's not a huge scene of like genre cinema in Brazil. There's very little like horror film. There's some being made now, some interesting ones being made now, but it's not something that we have in Brazil culturally. But it's changing now, and there's some really interesting films coming out from there. But like in this sense, I don't feel very connected in a filmic sense. I feel very connected to Brazil as a setting. I think is an amazing setting for horror and thrillers and all that. It's really amazing. And these films that I did, the second one that isn't out yet, like these two shorts, Molar, and the other one called Whale, I shot in the same place in the countryside in Rio where my parents live.
Right.
And it's and the actor is my brother, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was the whole crew for the film. I did it as an exercise, and at the end I just enjoyed it a lot. Because they live on the countryside, and they live really close to the right in the middle of the rainforest, and it's so scary and creepy sometimes,
Yeah. Well, I definitely got that watching it. It felt so, as someone who from the UK, I felt like where is it? I thought, has he shot this in the UK, and where has he shot it? And if not, right, I was like, is that the soundstage or something? And then I was like, no, it can't be. And then just really, like you say, foreboding, and what's in that jungle, and what's going to come
exactly
out of it. And you shoot it quite. There's a sort of stillness to a lot of your films as well. You're not whirling the camera around a lot. It's kind of taking its time, and then it's funny you mentioned like Zawalski as well, the claustrophobic feeling of something like Possession.
Yeah, I think the shorts they end up being a bit more, as I said, like have a lot of still shots, and it's because I'm always trying to capture like some kind of atmosphere, I think, and then I edit them myself, and then I really when I am editing the shorts, I really like. Sometimes you get a shot that you spend some time looking at it. But oh man, I really wanted to get the feeling of this moment, and I think because I think when you're making short films, you have the space to be a little indulgent, with like I really want to do something that I would like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think the shorts are the right place to be like that, you know, because even if Molar, well, when he screened at Fright Fest and London Short Film Festival, yes or no? Yeah, I think so. And like on both screenings, I was just like, oh my god, people are gonna hate this. But if they hate it, it's only like 5 minutes, so it's fine. So you know, I didn't like ruin their day or anything. It's just 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, I mean, ruin their day
You can survive it.
in a good, intentional way, with the sort of ruin the day where you're just thinking about who's come up with this and where's this come from, and, you know, wow.
It's funny because, but like, it's a bit different, like with custom, because with custom, when it's out, it is a bit different from the shorts. I try to be a bit more like narrative and not as used. I think we still have some moments like the shorts, but like I think as a film is a bit more dynamic and more traditional in this way. You know, there's like a narrative and things happening, and it's not like it's not like Molar for 1 hour and 20 minutes. I swear.
I mean, what are you thinking in terms of like not distribution, but will that go down a kind of you're putting it in for film festivals, are you? And that sort of almost traditional, you know, almost distribution plan where it goes to festivals and then you see if anybody wants to pick it up, or are you looking to get it onto a streamer or something like that?
Yeah, I'm working with my producer Andy Edwards, and we're trying to when it's ready. We're gonna start like submitting to some festivals, but the idea is to get into some festivals and then try to look for a sales agent or a streaming or somewhere. But yeah, we're going to try to go to this festival circuit first and see how it goes. I was yeah, but I'm just starting for it to be ready because I feel bad about sending work in progresses to festivals because it just feels like they should have seen like the finished product, not this.
I know you did it. Did you do a Kickstarter again, or I know it sounded like a bit of a frustrating. I know most filmmaking, making any sort of film is frustrating to a certain extent, but. Is that when the producer came on board and was able to kind of secure some finance?
Yeah. So what happened was Custom was a short film project. I was going to make it as a short film. I won a pitch at a festival. It was a new festival, but it only had one edition so far in the Netherlands called the Dark Arts Film Festival. And we won the pitch for the short film, and everyone loved the idea. And it was a great place. I met some amazing people there. And then I got excited by the idea, and then I did a crowdfunding back at the time to try to finance the short. And it really didn't work. But you know, that's how this things go. It's always a struggle to get financing and crowdfunding. I don't know. I've tried to do it a couple of times, and the one that I did for Dogskin kind of worked. But apart from that, it's always been like a bit of a frustrating experience. I just feel like I don't know how to do this properly, and I don't have the time, you know, to run this.
Or there's only so mmany times you can ask people for money.
Exactly.
I always feel like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So what happened was, I was trying to find a way to make the short film without the crowdfunding. I said, okay, I gotta fund it myself and see what happens. But the problem with short films is that if you put some money on it, you're never seeing that money again.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a short film is great and everything, and I love short films, but you're never getting that money back. And at some point I thought, like, okay, so what if I make a feature instead? And I started to work on the script, and I managed to write it in a way that I thought I could shoot in 10 days.
Right. And
it's a short story, and it only had like 4 characters and a couple of locations, and I thought, well, maybe this might work. So I got the money that I was saving for the short film, and I put some more money into it. I saved some more money, and at some point I managed to get the budget myself. So I It's kind of a self-funded project. And then Andy jumped in. We managed to put a budget together, and but it's a very it's a micro budget, and I'm very lucky to work with a casting crew that made it look so much better than than it should have looked by the by the money that we got.
Right.
It looks like I don't know. It's my opinion, of course, but I think it looks amazing. And
God, that's so exciting. I guess it depends, but is there a kind of a usual day for you, or is it purely, right? I've now got 2 months to edit this film, so I'm going to be full time editing. Or do you allow yourself a bit of time in the day to write, or are you having to still do other jobs to sort of make ends meet? I know most creative people are. What does it look like a sort of a usual day if you've got one?
Yeah, I have a day job. It helps a lot because to make ends meet, and I always end up in a way or another funding my films. So I can't complain about my day job, and I like it. It's good. What happens is, because of my day job, I kind of had to structure my creative work around it. So I usually, when I'm writing a script, I wake up as early as I can, and I do this before work.
Right.
I nowadays, I think I can only write like really early in the morning, because my my brain feels fresh.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of hours, it's all gone. It's like it's just it's a mess. So yeah, I usually do this in the morning, and the rest, the creative work, I do it like on the evenings or on the weekends. When I was editing, it was editing in all my spare time. So I would wake up in the morning, edit it, and then go to my day job, and then arrive home and edit again, and spend my weekends editing it. It's not. Don't recommend it, but it was the only way that I had to do it.
Is it? I mean, there's a lot of talk about burnout, but do you ever get to that stage, or is it like, oh, I just need to get this done, and there's a satisfaction in it? It's almost like clinging onto the satisfaction of each of these tasks, and that's a sort of reward and a rest in itself. But do you ever get to a stage where you're like, I need some time off from this?
Yeah, when I finished the edit, I was completely I mean, I couldn't. I was completely burned out. I had to, and then I finally managed to spend a weekend away with my girlfriend, and then I think it took me a month or two to get back to normal. After the edit was locked, and it went to sound design and to the score composer, um, and it felt at the same time that it felt like a weight was removed from my shoulders.
Yeah.
And it felt a bit sad, because it's hard. You get attached to these things. You get used to it in a way. But I was feeling very, very tired, like mentally and creatively, and I couldn't think of anything for a while. Now I'm beginning to go back to normal, I think. But it's. I think I just. You get to go through these things. You have to get like hyper focused on it, and now and it's it takes its toll, I think.
What was the experience like of working on that HBO show you worked on, and how did you get involved in that? And was it hard to go, right, that's it, and there's someone else who's going to take care of it now, I'm going to move on? But just be interested to hear what that experience of that was like.
After I went to film school, I did some shorts back in Brazil, and then I decided to become a screenwriter. You work in a lot of stuff that never your projects and projects from other filmmakers, and they never go nowhere. But but it's a great learning experience. I think a lot of screenwriters don't talk about this, but like the amount of work they do that never happens. But it's funny. It's it's a good way to get employed and everything. But I got into this HBO show. It was called The Hypnotist, and it was based on a graphic novel. It's like this. I think it was 10 or 8 different stories, were like an anthology about this stage magician that was solving crimes, like on back in Argentina. The time and place of where the show took place, it wasn't very. It was a bit nebulous, but on purpose. It was really interesting because it was something like about this magical realism that's very is a very popular thing on South America, especially in Argentina with Borges and all those writers and Bioy Casares. And it was a great experience. Another screenwriter called Leonardo Levis that he invited me to the project, and with the head writer, who was Pablo de Santis, the one that wrote the graphic novel, we kind of had an idea of how the stories should feel and how the kind of the world was going to be because of the comics. It's like you have all the kind of the production design heavy ready, and it was like the comics were very interesting, like visually. It's a great work, and it was really interesting working as a script writer because on the show, because I think every filmmaker should at some point work on a script that's not his, because there's something that's really interesting that it can try to do when you're writing a screenplay. A screenplay is like you can't direct the film, of course, but you have to find ways to kind of direct the film without directing the film. So you can write things in a way that kind of guides the scene the way that you have it in mind. Of course, the director can throw it all away. Is another skill that you have to do to have as a screenwriter. You have to stop caring about this. It can be too precious.
Yeah. I was so pleased when I asked you to do this, and then you emailed back to say you'd really enjoyed the episode, because I was like, I was kind of worried in a way, because this episode of the X Files season 1, episode 4, it's an alien one, so it's sort of the kind of legacy one. It's not a Monster of the Week one. Did you watch it the first time round when it came out then?
Yeah. It was back in '93. I was a teenager, but first time that I watched it, I thought it was like this was made for me. I loved it, and my whole family was hooked in it. Even if they don't like sci-fi or horror or anything like that, they would watch every week with me, and everyone loved it. And it's like it was really, but I never watched it again. And with these things that you watch when you're young, you think like, oh, maybe it wasn't that good. It's just my memory of it. You have an emotional attachment to it, but maybe it wasn't that good. And then I watched it again yesterday. I was just like, oh my God, I think I love it even more.
That's brilliant. And I suppose you're watching it now as a writer and as someone who's worked on a TV show as well. And were you able to appreciate it from that point of view as well?
Oh, totally. And like when I watched it in a tube TV. And yesterday I watched like this new transfer, which is like beautiful. I'm just like, oh my God, man, this looks so good. And it's like I really don't like to say that, because I feel like I'm starting to sound like an old man, but every time that I see something like from the 90s now, or any time that's anything from like more than 20 years ago, just like, man, you can't, as a filmmaker, you can't just like, it's impossible not to think like how people used to think about blocking and lighting. There's like such an incredible like mood, I don't know, 90% of things that you watch today, even sometimes like Prestige, TV and things like that, it just feels rushed, It feels like it wasn't made with so much care, You can feel like, and with X Files, I'm just like, oh my God, it's so well done, and I loved like the one thing that I completely forgot about the X Files was this ambiguity, because I think on most episodes you never know, like, of course, if it's a supernatural thing or if it's just like, it's so well.
Those are the best episodes where it starts, and even if it ends in a different supernatural way to the way that you think it started, along the way you've gone through various logical explanations, almost like Sherlock Holmes, because that's, Scully's there to go, no, come on, don't be so silly, Mulder. This is what this is. There must be a logical explanation. With this as well, it's like you don't expect it to have an 8-year-old boy on the floor receiving messages in binary code, and then that wonderful pull out shot where there's the camera pulls up and there's from a height and there's the face of the girl, his sister there. It's just a real kind of economy of filmmaking, I think, as well, because like you say, there's just such care gone into it, but they've got to do it in 42 minutes. And I think the nice thing with this episode as well is, the writer said it's a character-driven one. It's not a slam bang. You don't get a lot of visceral thrills in it. There's some great shots in it, but it's more about Mulder's character and almost Scully realizing that he's probably not a crackpot. There's this stuff about you get more on his sister's been abducted, and that's why he's connected to this case. And it really does take the time to sort of establish the character.
Yeah, and it's great. I think it really helps, like with the ambiguity, because even when you get to the end of the episode, they don't explain anything that's going on, which I love. I love this. You don't feel cheated because you were focused on the characters, and like on. And I thought it was like so good, man. The shot when they're following the boy in the woods, and there's this light, and then for a second it feels like it's a flying saucer or something, and then Mulder looks at it, and it's not a flying saucer; it's a gang of bikers that's running and is gonna run this boy over, and he runs to the boy and holds him between the bikes, and they're just like, my God, this is such a great scene, man. I was really impressed.
You can tell. I was like, well, who's the director of this? And I'd not heard of Daniel Sakheim before, but it made total sense that he's almost like a legendary TV director. He's done Game of Thrones and Better Call Saul and True Detective, and he directed 2 of the episodes of this show, Night Stalker, which I've not seen, but Chris Carter, the showrunner of X Files, regularly references it as a major influence on X Files. I think it's like a detective show, but the guy, I think his name's Kolchak. Again,
Kolchak.
Yeah. Did you watch that as well then?
No. I heard about it, but I never watched it. That's a good. Completely forgot about it. I'm gonna find out how to watch this.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a DVD or something.
I'd love to see that. I don't know how you get hold of it, but it was. He's always saying that's a major thing. So it was nice of that director sort of come off the back of that, and and there's so many people like Vince Gilligan, came out of the writers' room of X Files, and then you just get these. They really does invest in great actors as well. Because, there's Carrie Snodgrass, are just absolutely fantastic as the mother of the teenager, and then.
I wasn't expecting to be so good. I'm tempted to start watching everything from the beginning.
Brilliant!
Just because it's and when you think that they were doing 23 episodes per season, man, that's like insane. Nowadays, everyone is like oversaturated with media. We watch so many things, and everyone is so aware, of plots and character developments and all that, and people. Love to point like to plot holes and things like that. If you aired something like this today, people would go like, "Oh, but they didn't solve the mystery. Like, where is this? Where is this going? Where's this plot point? Where's this left open? Like, it doesn't matter. That's the point."
Yeah. There's a sort of beauty of a lot of the episodes end with a sort of dot. It's almost a shame that there isn't, like you say, that ambiguity and more of it. I'm so pleased. I'm pleased that you're going to watch it.
Oh, I loved it. There's another thing that I really love about X Files. If my memory is correct, because I have to rewatch it to be sure. But if I'm right, because I think there's a lot of episodes that are like this from what I remember. And I think there's something that's really refreshing in that I really like about horror stories. They have this kind of Lovecraftian use of horror. And Lovecraft, even if he was a horrible person and a terrible racist, and he completely nailed this, which is like the things that happen to the characters on on X Files, it happens for them. It's like completely random events, like that family on this episode that they are in the woods and then there's like a flying saucer or something,
Yes.
or a UFO, and they had nothing to do with it. She was involved with the mother was involved with like the UFOs in the past, but just because she lives in the area and everyone around there has UFO stories, but like she's not traumatized by it, and she's not trying to recover from a trauma or something. It's just like, oh my god, it happened again. And I really feel like when these horror stories, when something bizarre or unexplained or terrible just happens to someone and it's completely unrelated to them, is no, you have like this this feeling like the universe is completely indifferent to you, like
Right.
a lot of Lovecraft stories have, like, which is like there's some stuff that doesn't just happens, and you're not going to get an explanation, you're not going to get a closure for that,
Yeah.
and you're not going to learn anything. Sometimes there's just horrible stuff that happens, that's going to happen to you, and you have to deal
Yeah.
with it the best way you could. And I thought it was so refreshing, because nobody learned anything at the end.
Yeah.
There was no.
It's almost like a sort of horror Seinfeld, isn't it?
Exactly, which I love. It's like it wasn't a metaphor for anything. It was just some weird stuff that happened in the woods, and
Yeah.
I just thought it was so good, because I don't know. It just felt. I think this kind of horror to me. I think when you have a horror story, whenever all the pieces they fit together, sometimes it's great, but sometimes it feels overwritten, you know, and it feels like, oh, okay, so you have this because this is gonna go here, and this goes here, and this goes here,
Yeah.
and I like this ambiguity and this. It feels more real to me, because if something like that happened in real life, that's probably how it would go.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. And just remembering, what did it used to be called? Strange but True. There was a program in the UK presented by Michael Aspel where it was like Michael Aspel, the friendly, reliable ITV presenter, investigates the paranormal, and he interviews people who've seen things and experienced things. And they did an episode that I really remember really well about the Enfield poltergeist, and that's
Oh yeah,
that's the one that just I know it's like a thing, but being scarred for life. Did really this image of someone walking past this house and seeing a pillow on the roof, and then looking down and then seeing one of the girls levitating in the bedroom window. And the way they reconstructed it was like, just couldn't get out of my mind. And I still can't now, this really horrible, uncanny, disturbing image. But you're right. I mean, I guess Enfield poltergeist aside, because that family seemed to be affected by it for the rest of their life. But you get people on that show who come on and they're just leading their lives, and they go, "Oh yeah, I remember that weird thing that happened," and yeah, I still get a bit of a, if I go in a dark room or I put the shower on or something like that, I still get a bit of like, oh yeah, I get like a flashback to it. But you're totally right. It's like, but you've just got to. There is no explanation for something. And oftentimes it's like bad luck, and you
exactly.
just have to you just cosmically bad luck, isn't it? You just got to carry on.
Exactly. I love. This is my favorite kind of horror stories. It's when things happen for no reason, and nobody is learning anything from this experience, or many times getting out alive.
Yeah, that's the reward you get out of your life. Well, just lastly before we wrap up, have you seen anything else recently that you've been excited by? It doesn't have to be films, horror films. It could be art, or if you've read a book or something like that. Is there anything that you could recommend that you've been really excited by?
I've been. I'm always. I like. I'm always reading books and comic books. There was a. I just finished it. It's a project. A project that I started during the lockdown, because I decided to read all the books from this guy called Thomas Tessier. He is a horror writer,
All right.
and he's kind of like It reminds me a bit like Stephen King, but like he's more succinct, So his books are like 250 pages long. It's not. It's not. It's not. It doesn't write. It doesn't spend
Oh, right,
a lot
great.
of time. He's very straight to the point. But I really loved him. And he was kind of he had a bit of fame in the 80s, but it's like the stuff that he writes is very weird and nasty and very problematic sometimes. But it feels like so real. Even when it has like this horror element, it just feels very strange, and I love it. It took me forever to finish it all, but I finally did it. And he has, and it's funny because he's American, but he studied in the UK, and he's always his books. He's always going back to the UK. So there's a lot of stories set in London, and it's very interesting in the 80s or so. The last one that I read it out of order, but the last one was one called The Fates, and it's exactly this kind of story that we were talking about. Is a group of people in a small town, and some strange things begin to happen, and everyone's trying to find a reason, why this is happening, and if the supernatural event is trying to tell them something, and it's not. It's just something that's happening, and I thought it was amazing. He's a great guy. This has been like a and when you start making films, everything that you write, at least with me, every book that I read, I keep thinking of it. Oh, this would make like a great film.
Brilliant!
Yeah, but it's great. It's a really interesting author that nobody talks about anymore.
No, I've never heard of him.
It's really interesting. Sometimes it's a bit hard to find his books, but you can buy old paperbacks with amazing covers.
Yeah, I can imagine exactly what the covers are like. That's part of the charm, isn't it?
It looks terrible, and it looks really cheap, but it's not. It's actually pretty good. And I don't know. I have a weird taste. I loved it.
Believe Me is written and edited by me, Chris Boyd, with production support from Steve Marshall. The music is by Johnny Boyle, and our logo is by Russ Brown. See you out there next time.